I don't think enough of us understand the will of God. And in our search to discover the will of God, we've decided that we're going to layer all of these crazy things on top of what God has already told us in his word his will was for us. And in that, a lot of us are going to be lost. Now, we're about to get into some 300 level, theology here. So put your thinking caps on and walk with me. So to begin, in the Garden of Eden, there was no religion. There was only relationship. And the reason there was no religion, and when I say religion, I mean there was no, hey, meet me at the tree of life at noon, and then you're going to bow 6 times, and then you're going to pray for 30 minutes, and we're going to talk for this. There was none of that. There was no sacrifice. There was no religion at all. All there was Adam in the garden, walking with God, talking with God, enjoying relationship with God. Now, why is that? Why would God, especially the God who put all those laws in place during the Mosaic times, not want religion to be part of the integral foundation of the world? Because he already got that. If you think about what the angels represent and what the angels actually do, they are the religious ones in terms of God and everything going on in the heavens. He's got specific angels for specific purposes. He's got angels that cry holy. He's got angels that play trumpets. He got angels to do he got angels that just sing. He's got angels to do everything he needs from a religious standpoint to give him that structured glory, that structured praise, and it's super duper deep down. This is going to happen every day, all day at this exact time with no sort of deviation. He's got that already. And because those beings were made for that purpose, they don't have relationship. And God wanted relationship, not because he needed it, but because he desired it. That was his will, to have relationship with beings that he created. So then Adam comes along, and with Adam coming along, he basically formed that relationship, and they were on the same level. They were talking, they were walking in the garden. When I say on the same level, I'm not meaning like Adam was equal with God. But if you think about the separation that came through sin, Adam and God were basically father and son within the garden. That's why Jesus was called the second Adam, in the sense of father and son relationship, not literally father and son, not literally begotten son, meaning the same like or meaning the same God DNA, but in the sense that God created Adam and they had the relationship of father and son within the Garden of Eden. Now, I know what you're going to say. All right, cool. So then what was all the purpose of the old law? And I got you. So when it started off, the sin that Adam brought into the world through chaos, through the whole thing, put a rift in the relationship, and that father-son dynamic between God and us was ruined. Completely thrown away, because God can't associate with us when we're full of sin and we have unreconciled sins. And when I say unreconciled, I mean unpaid for. Thus started the process of God taking us from out of relationship and putting us in relationship through the means that makes the most sense for what he was trying to accomplish. Because yes, God could have scrapped the whole project. All right, we're going to start Earth 2.0, get rid of Adam, get rid of Eve, get rid of Cain, get rid of Abel and everybody else, which he did a hard reset with Noah and the ark. But for the most part, he was like, I'm going to work with y'all because I have formed a relationship with Adam. Therefore, the relationship with people, I have that longing for that relationship back. I have a longing to have Adam back in the fold, Adam being mankind. And that's because there was time spent. So you can't just throw away a relationship when you've really gotten down to the pureness of the relationship after time spent. That also explains why God kept going back and forth, wanting to destroy us and lamenting that he made us, because at that point now his heartstrings are being tugged because he loves us, and because he loves us because he knew us. Then at that point, us being in a rift, it's a father being away from his child because his child ran away. It's the prodigal son relationship. That's literally what that parable is about. There was relationship at first. The son decided, I want to go do my own thing, realized that he did the wrong thing, came back. And when he came back, God was so happy to have him back. The father was so happy to have him back because his will was always for there to be a relationship there on the same level it always was. But I digress. So all of the Mosaic law is sanctification. And the reason it's sanctification is because when God made that promise to Abraham, there needed to be something to set the people apart from the people in the world, right? If you think about Noah and the ark, there was no difference between Noah and the other people in the world from a servitude standpoint. Did he believe and trust in God, and was he a good person? Yes. But at the same time, there was nothing to sanctify or tighten them up and make them look as a separate people. Like you could look at Noah and look at everybody else and see them as the same. So with all the people in the earth, Abram became the guy of promise because he was like, yo, God, I believe in what you're talking about. I'll do what you say do. I'll sanctify by cutting the foreskin, which was something that was never done before. So we'll start circumcising, and then we'll start sacrificing to you. And with that, you bless me, and I'll respect and perform these religious acts back to you. Fast forward through those generations, you get Isaac, you get Jacob, you get the children of Israel that go into bondage with Egypt, and then they leave out of Egypt. And from that standpoint, once again, if you looked at them when they left Egypt, they looked exactly the same as those people who were in Egypt. So the Mosaic law, once again, was put in place to sanctify them and set them apart. So they look different. I can tell that you're an Israelite because of how you dress. I can tell you're an Israelite. I can tell you belong to God because of how you are. If you think about David, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they went over into Babylon and the guy was basically telling them, hey, here's all the food that the king wants for y'all. He wants y'all to eat and act exactly like Chaldeans or exactly like Babylonians. And David said, no, give us what our God has told us to eat and try us and see that we'll be better. And boom, there it was. They were sanctified because they honored that sanctification. It was set apart. And once they were set apart, they were good to go. In fact, they were even better. Now, I know what you're going to say now. Oh, so that's the case for why we should stick to the old law. Keep sticking with me. Like I said, it's a 300 level course. It's going to take me a minute to get to my point. Once everybody was sanctified and there was a clear difference between God's people and the rest of the world, now the Messiah can come in because now God has created, in a sense, the womb that the Lord himself was going to come down through and save the earth to get us back in relationship. Jesus comes, he lives, he dies, he's resurrected, and the veil is now torn down because the sin that separated us from our Father has now been fully paid for by our big brother. And that's also why, if you think about the laws that Jesus gave in respect to the laws that God gave back in the Mosaic times, Jesus's laws were all about relationship. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and might, the same way Adam did. Love your neighbor as yourself, the same way Adam loved Eve. Like, there is such a need and foster to get back to relationship because religion has been fulfilled. Jesus came down through all those generations, had to come at a specific time, had to be according to prophecy, had to be lined up because it had to be predictable and it had to be recognizable, which is the religious part of it, because you had to have the certain tribe that he came from. You had to have the certain number of generations, a certain age, the certain year, the certain time in the day, and the time in the year when he died, and time in the year when he came up. All of those things are religious because they're all predictable and they're also all regimented. That's why he's the high priest according to the line of Melchizedek, and he's our new and perfect high priest, and he's the ultimate sacrifice, because all of those are him fulfilling the religious functions, right? If you think about, he adhered to the Mosaic law and he fulfilled the law and prophets, because at this point the religion was no longer needed for us to get back to God's grace. So he gave us laws of love, laws of relationship. So all that to say, all of these things that we do where we're consistently pushing and pulling to get back to religion is super unnecessary, because God doesn't need our religion. God doesn't need me to take the Eucharist. God doesn't need me to stand up and sit down 7 times. He doesn't need me to have a shouting fit to recognize me. If I love the Lord my God with my heart, soul, and might, and I love my neighbor as myself, and I am saved, that relationship aspect, in fact, salvation, the process of salvation, is the only religious piece that we need to do. And that's just to, once again, sanctify us as gods. And once we are sanctified, it's purely relationship from there. Because as I know God and I grow with God, I'm going to adhere more to what he wants. I'm going to become more of who he wants me to be. So therefore, he doesn't need me to necessarily regiment myself down to the bone like he did with the Mosaic law and like a lot of us do with common day religion. What he needs for us to do is to love him so he can show us and make us and break us and create us into who he wants us to be, and love each other so that we can lead others to him for that same process. If you stuck with me this far, I appreciate it. It was something I had on me. I wasn't even trying to do this today.